Oh, there we are. We are we are live and close enough to our start time.
No,
So,
kind.
yeah. Kind of, that's right. So, we'll give it a second as people start to get notified of us and the fact that we're live and
Oh, great.
yes. Yeah, that's right. Um So everybody, welcome to maybe Dad, could you turn that volume down a little bit more on your just go down to about a quarter. Just keep it going down. There,
Yes.
yeah, that's better. That's better. So welcome everybody to the Dream Show. And we go live every let's see, every last Friday of the month. And that just so happens to be today. And what we do in the Dream Show is we help you understand your dreams and the things that go bump in the night, the mysteries that occur and the mysteries that happen. And so that's what we do. So right now we're just taking a second to share. Let's see, share to let's see, sharing the live feed to various places. So if you're just tuning in, please give the video a like and give it a share. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, then click the thumbs up and let people know. Share it to your Facebook wall or Instagram or whatever social media that you use. Maybe you use Truth Social. So I thought like there's only really one person that uses Truth Social. So anyway,
Well,
so
it's possible, but I think there's more
it's
people than one.
yeah. Are you on it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
since you're a social media fiend, right?
I don't even think I'm on Twitter, actually.
Oh yeah. Well, you're not missing much. So yeah, yeah.
And I
So
only get on Facebook like, I
the
don't
last
know.
Friday of every month.
Well, a little bit more than that, but not much. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Um. So what's new over there, Pops? What have you been up to in Florida?
What is new? Um, I'm working in the yard today. Got a big birthday party for two of the grandkids, the Florida grandkids.
The Floridians.
Yes.
Well, are they technically Floridians if they came from California? Do they give
Well,
you?
they are Floridians now.
Yeah.
That's what you get
There
to
you
do
go.
in America. You move from
Yeah.
one state to another, and you become a person of that state.
There you go. There
That's
you
how it
go.
works.
Yeah.
So got a big water slide bounce house coming tomorrow for the
Oh,
party.
that's a big
Yeah, it's like
extravaganza.
25 foot high, and they just slide down it. So it's
That
pretty
sounds like
cool.
fun. I would do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah.
it we have it for 2 days, so we can do it on Sunday.
Well, unfortunately, you wouldn't really want to do that here at this point.
No,
So, because we're right in the middle of birthday month for the
yeah,
Canadian grandchildren,
that's right.
and
Yeah.
we had Savannah's 10th birthday was just the other day. Can see a hair hanging down from this hat. Uh, Savannah's 10th birthday was just the other day, and she had a tie-dye shirt party. So that was great fun. Yeah,
Well, I was
but
just digging holes to put concrete on the swing set so that kids won't pull it out of the ground tomorrow. That's my big
yeah,
thing. That's
but
what's happening in Florida.
there's still no guarantees, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm putting.
Um,
Yeah, it's been a week of 2 weeks of projects getting ready for this.
right.
I'm tired. I'll be tired.
Yeah,
Exhausted.
but that's being a grandparent, right?
That's
I
true.
wouldn't know. I wouldn't know yet. So we've still got a ways to go with that one.
Well, eventually,
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes. Well, I know we have some dreams. What anything that you've been thinking about when it comes? I know in the Coffee with Ken's, you've been talking about engaging the resurrection life of Jesus.
Right.
And there's been some fantastic conversations, though we weren't able to do this Wednesday. Some fantastic conversations in there.
Well, and we've been
And
talking about how central the resurrection is
right,
to Christian faith, and how it's if you're raised Protestant, not just Protestant, because there's a lot of Protestant churches that will have a good focus on the resurrection, but it tends to be more of the charismatic, um, experience-oriented kind of churches that you'll get a lot of messages that even if they're preaching through the Bible, it'll be a lot of how to live your life sort of messages.
sure.
Kind of like a self-helpy type of thing. Not that it's
Less
bad necessarily, but
less focus on, say, exegetical interpretation line by line, right? And more focus on practical application of things. Yeah, that's true.
How do I live my life? And
that's true.
Which are good questions. I mean, they're not invalid questions. They're very good. But I've found over the course of decades that there tends to be less focus on the very basic principles and not just principles, very basic things, the events that occurred that created the atmosphere that launched what we call Christianity.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
And those are, of course, the life of Jesus and the crucifixion and the resurrection. And then how the church has lived out that resurrection power from day one, and how it has sometimes and sometimes it has not. So anyway, we've been talking about how does the resurrection impact us? What is it? We looked at it theologically, looked at it practically, and so we've got another week or two of that, and then we'll probably look at Pentecost a bit. What are the implications of Pentecost? Just as the beginning point, all the languages are separated at Babylon,
right?
That's the Tower of Babel.
Yep.
And the people, the humanity is separated because they try to unify under their own purposes and their own plans,
right.
and that will not bring them any closer to what they were originally intended to be. So, matter of fact, it would be destructive. So, in kindness, there's a separating out. But at Pentecost, everybody heard the same thing in their own language.
Right.
And languages are coming back together, so that we're looking at something that's new creation established and happening on the day of Pentecost that reverses something that happened before. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, Paul then of course goes on. All the apostles actually go on to elaborate on Paul specifically saying there's no male, there's no female, right? There's no Greek, there's no Jew, meaning there's no distinction between persons. When he says there's no Jew, there's no Greek, meaning there's no difference. We don't treat one ethnicity different than the other ethnicity, right? We are all one people group. So that oneness that that mankind attempted to create at the Tower of Babel, we see actually ushered in by the coming of the Spirit.
Right.
And so what man attempted to do in his own strength, he obviously is incapable of doing what God can do through grace.
Right.
And that's one of the big things that we see right there. And one of the aspects of that is we're, jumping onto the Dream Show and just giving a shout out to Annette. Hey, Annette, how's it going? If you're anybody that's just tuning in, give us a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I can see people on, but people haven't commented. So let us know that you're there. And but the one aspect of resurrection life is dreams, visions, strange events, right?
Correct.
These things happen, and it's part of God communicating to us.
Yeah.
And
you're funny.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Lynn's funny.
Yeah. That is.
Yeah, we'll work on you, Lynn. We'll be working on you.
Yeah. So, but it is a I've found just like you're saying that we've thought through, or we've tend to emphasize the practical how-to, how to apply, like, it would be not atypical to find a preaching series on marriage or relationships, right?
Right. Sure.
In a your kind of evangelical, especially charismatic Pentecostal
Yeah.
church,
Yeah.
as opposed to line by, but even the line by line exegetical preaching, I think, still misses the point of rooting, like the central point of Scripture, of course, is the person of Jesus.
Yeah.
And if everything doesn't tie back to that, because the whole word ties into that, both the Old Testament pointing forward, the New Testament pointing back. So, like, if we're not extrapolating on the life of Jesus from anything we do when it comes to, and I just find that there's it's making me think of we're presently just released 2 episodes on the Voices from the Desert podcast. For those of you that haven't,
right, which is good.
you guys haven't checked out the Voices from the Desert podcast, you should check out the Voices from the Desert podcast. You just search Voices from the Desert. You could probably search Joshua Hoffert, and myself and a good friend of our show, good friend of mine, Murray Dewick. We co-host the show Voices from the Desert, and we talk through really the nuances of theology, biblical interpretation, history, these things as it, what would eventually turn into practical application. But how are we to understand these things? So we just released 2 episodes that were a two-part interview with an Orthodox priest named Father Michael Gillis, or Murray says Gillies, so I'm not exactly sure now how to say his name, but it's spelled Gillis.
Correct. Yeah. Gillies,
And but that's the Californian in me coming out, Father Gillis. So he has his own podcast called Praying in the Rain through Ancient Faith Radio, and he's also an Orthodox priest that's been
cool.
grew. He was in Foursquare churches, so he came up through the charismatic movement, and by the time he was about 40, he ends up becoming a priest in the Orthodox Church. So he's been a priest for 30 or 40 years at this point, and I'm not exactly sure how he is, but I'm going to guess in his 70s. And he is just a wealth of information and insight into it. One of the things Father Mike said was, and he said this to me, was in his view, the charismatic church and the Orthodox church share the same back alley.
Okay.
That was a really interesting way of saying the similarities, but vastly different. But we have some similarities that we can see. And so, but the 2-part conversation is a 2-hour-long conversation on a theological topic called theosis.
Mm-hmm.
And theosis is the early church language, and eventually, of course, the Orthodox Church adopted this language. They use this language still. We don't really use it, but the early church, it's quite prevalent, and it really is the implications of what it means to be one with Christ.
Yeah.
And we look at that. So what you're saying about resurrection now, that whole 2-hour-long episode is essentially resurrection life, and as it pertains to our personal and individual walk with Christ. So check out if you want even more of what we're talking about, go check out the Voices from the Desert podcast. It's I think it's really good anyway. So, but yeah, it's so vitally important that the coming to grips with what it means to be united with him.
Hey, we had a question. Are we moving on? Am I moving?
Well, let's say this. Let's say yes, we can.
Okay.
Let's say this. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in. KCC, Lynn, Shar, Rita. Awesome to see everybody tuning in and letting us know where you're from. Good that we've got some people representing from California. So, back in the home state. And actually, Rita, I think I got my hat in Georgia on the drive back from Florida. So,
I'll be driving through Georgia in about a week.
There you go. So great to see Ingrid. So as welcome to the Dream Show, as with every one of our shows, the deal is post your questions, post your in the comment section about dreams you've had, or questions you have about dreams, or about visions, experiences, things that you've just been wrestling with. And post your dreams in the comments too. And we'll get to interpret as many as we can. We have a couple that people have sent beforehand, so we'll check and see if those people are on before we interpret them. The deal is you always have to be here to have your dream interpreted, because we'll have questions and things like that. So post your dreams, post your questions, and let's have a rousing good time.
A rousing good time. Hey, so Annette sent me a question this week.
All right, good.
About and she sent me a dream, but in the midst of the dream, her big question is, what does she and her family are in a hospital in Turkey, getting some things are happening. She wants to know, what does Turkey mean? In a dream.
Interesting. Right. Right.
So I mean, why would you? So, no, they were. It was one of the floors of the hospital was called the Turkey floor.
The Turkey floor. Okay.
Yeah, as in a different country. So.
Right. So she thought, yeah. Yeah.
So why would one of the floors be called Turkey? And it was germane to the dream.
Right. Right.
So Turkey to a person would be, first of all, it would, we start from the big perspective when we try to understand a element in a dream, one little component. So we say, okay, we know where Turkey is.
Right.
Number one, it's it's right there off the Mediterranean at the end.
It's just north of Israel, right?
Yeah, north of Israel, just south of Ukraine and Russia, and so Turkey is a significant country, and they are in large part Muslim. Not all. There are a lot of Christian communities in Turkey, but
that was one of the main hubs of the Desert Fathers. Actually, was in Turkey. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Basil the Great was there.
Yeah. So, and Turkey has played a significant role in history as a place, and also there are a lot of stuff that happened in there in James Bond movies too, which is
okay. Well, yes, you've given us the history of Turkey. We appreciate that. Well, and with so Turkey, it was Cappadocia, I think, isn't that what Turkey was way back in the day?
Well, it was Galatia, Cappadocia. Yeah, there was several. It was called Asia Minor.
Right. Sure.
And you had Antioch.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show about Turkey.
Turkey, yes.
Yeah, all thanks to
the country of Turkey.
Yeah. So, there's lots of
picture. Number one, it's a country.
Yeah, number one, it's a country.
In this place in the world.
Yeah.
And who it's populated by, and a little bit of its history. Those are the things that you first look at when you're looking at a metaphor within a dream. Why?
Yeah. So with that said, right, you're right. You're asking those kind of questions if it's a country, right?
Right.
And then you can ask more personal questions of the dreamer too. Right. Like, does that dreamer have a particular connection with Turkey? Maybe there's an ethnicity. Maybe there's the Lord can place the burden for Turkey on someone's heart, or maybe you've been involved in, you could be supporting missionaries in Turkey or whatever, there could be, is there a personal connection to the country?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. What's the connection? Do you have a connection with Turkey? If you have a connection with Turkey, well, now we're starting to get to, all right, well, maybe there's something to the metaphor of what happened there, some meaning, personal meaning.
In your particular dream language, where does it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so that can be regardless of what country it is, in the country I was in. Hey, Chris Rochette, great to see Chris and Lean. I said Lean has jumped on. Amy, wonderful to see everybody there. And Chris should be interpreting dreams for us. He's the dream interpreter. So Turkey, Annette says Turkey means nothing to her, but that is the question. If England's if England's in your dream, right? Like, what does England mean to you, right? And
that's when so her answer like that, when it says it means nothing to me, that's when it becomes perplexing,
right?
Like, why would I have Turkey in my dream if Turkey means nothing to me?
And so for instance, I will give a personal example just as we're talking about this question. I had a dream years ago, where in the course of the whole dream, one of the things that was spoken to me by a well-known prophetic voice was, "You're moving to England." And so that was verbatim what was saying.
Yeah.
"You're moving to," actually, it was a guy was a Southern prophetic voice. "So you're moving to England, boy," is what he said, right? And there was a little bit more to the dream, but that was this recognized track record of accuracy, a person that
Yeah.
people respect, that kind of stuff, right? Still good to this day. Um, you're moving to England, and so I had no personal connection. I mean, I've been to England, but I had no personal connection to England, or
Yeah.
like I think we've mentioned on the Dream Show that what am I, like, eighth, 10th generation Californian,
No, you're
or
fifth generation.
fifth generation, well, whatever. So it's our family's been in California for a long time, right?
Right.
This is the first generation of our family that's kind of, my kids are growing up not in California.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so there's England is there's not, and the family name goes back to Germany. It doesn't go back to England. So there's no like, I don't have, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't get it. Right. Well, so again, this dream was like 10 years ago, and it was a really powerful dream. Like, I mean, the spirit fell on me. I was undone in the dream. So I woke up going, maybe we're supposed to move to England. Erin had some connection with Europe. Her mom immigrated from Holland. And so, maybe something like that. But anyway, I just kind of shelved it because I didn't know what to do with it. I thought maybe England is the land of the Anglo-Saxon. Maybe there's a connection with angels. You're moving to more heavenly territory or something like that. I was trying to figure out what the metaphor could be, right?
Yeah.
But I could nothing quite fit. And then when we were considering moving to PEI, we had kind of made the decision that we're going to move in this direction. And I was standing in the local coffee shop in the city that we live in now. And they had a map on the wall, and it was an old map. And it showed that originally the whole territory from New Brunswick into Prince Edward Island was called New England. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, that dream, you're moving to England," right? And
Yeah.
then when we actually I got to the place that we were going to live, where the church and the pastor here had arranged for a place for us to live for the first few months that we were here. And I remember driving into the little location, little tiny community, and the community was called New London. And the Wi-Fi password of the house was, it was like London Paradise or something like that, or England Paradise, something like that. So it was like all of a sudden the dream just comes crashing in, right? The interpretation was not, what does England represent? It was God giving us insight before the thing happened. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, right? Like, God spoke this 5 years prior and now it's coming to pass. So anyway, I'm not saying that that's what a net stream means, but there's a lot of nuance to why a particular country would be chosen.
Yeah.
With Turkey, it can be the wordplay as well. Even though it's the country Turkey, it could be the wordplay, because Turkey could mean, it could talk about Thanksgiving, right? That's a very cold American cultural thing, and some other countries too, but definitely American. The turkey would represent, if you thought about a turkey, you would immediately think about Thanksgiving. And so there is the wordplay from the turkey, the country, to Turkey, the place of praise and thanksgiving, provision, that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of things that it can mean. Like my dad said, the country itself, predominantly Muslim, so a place that doesn't know Jesus all that well. Um, and and if it's a place that doesn't know Jesus all that well, in the context of being in a hospital, a place of healing for people for the parts that don't know Jesus as well, maybe the parts of the family, the parts of the heart, that kind of stuff. So there's lots of different
let's
things.
take a look at the dream.
All right, let's do that.
So Annette says, my family, husband, and my 2 kids were in a hospital. We were really enjoying ourselves. It felt like a vacation. My son asked to walk around. We let him, and he came straight back. But my daughter, Lauren, left without telling us. I panicked. My son said she went to the turkey floor. Each floor of the hospital was named a different country. I ran frantically looking for her, asking nurses, and asked if I could make an announcement on the intercom for her. They said, certainly not. Couldn't find her anywhere. And then my alarm went off.
As in like you woke up.
Yeah,
to your,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not the alarm like, oh, something's happened. Yeah.
Right.
Couldn't find her. I guess you would just end it right there, right? Couldn't find her.
Right. And one of the questions I would ask is, do you remember could the hospital be what is happening in different countries in the world? Well, we'll address that question in a second. Did you know what the other floors were named? You said they were named after different countries. Do you remember the other countries that were named in there? So okay. The question from Shar, could the hospital be what is happening in different countries in the world? There are a lot of different people still suffering from the earthquakes in Turkey. Sure, it is probably not in this dream, but in another dream for sure.
It's not inconceivable.
It's not inconceivable. Right. Yeah. Because the context of the dream, this is one of those things we talk about in our dream class, which we will be hosting probably over the summer. So we're still looking at the dates. We have a dream class where we teach through this stuff. Because the context of the dream is Annette and her family, because my family, my husband and my 2 kids were in the hospital. So this dream is about her family. That gives us the context right away. Right. And it could be about spiritual family, because sometimes family can represent spiritual family as well. But this tells us the sphere of life. Now, if Annette's just watching a hospital and she doesn't know any of the people in there, and she's just seeing the different floors and sees a floor named Turkey with different people being operated on, that might be different, right? Now the context isn't Annette's family, but her family is in the hospital, and her family's not practically in Turkey. So that's why, Shar, we would go, Turkey is a metaphor for something in Annette's family's life, not talking about what's happening in different countries in the world. But like I said, the question is not, it's a good question, because it could definitely speak of that. Yeah. So,
but now we know that the context is family, and that the place they're in is a hospital.
Yes, that's right.
And it doesn't, and the hospital doesn't seem overwhelming to them at all. It actually feels like something good is happening. It's a place they're actually able to relax. It's vacation.
Right.
So it's something away from their normal routine.
Right.
That is actually healing. Because if you're on a vacation and it's a healing vacation, that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah. So my question is for Annette, Annette, have you been concerned about some of the stuff have you been concerned about the direction your daughter's taking, some of the stuff
she's already answered that to me, and I can say yes.
Okay. Yeah, she is. Yeah. So, because that would be she's, regardless of what Turkey represents, Turkey is a foreign place. So she's in a place that we're not familiar with. Right. And they just visited a new church Sunday, and my husband came with us. That's awesome. So the family is enjoying a season of healing. However, your daughter seems to have, she's not in the same part of the journey as you guys. That's, in the dream, she's in a different place, right? Maybe she's trying to figure out what this all means to her. Maybe she's wrestling with certain doubts, that kind of stuff. That's something to take with you before the Lord. But I would say in the dream, you go, I want to make an announcement and try and find her, right? And the nurses who know about the hospital and who know about caring for people who've been taking care of you, right? You're having a great time in a vacation. They say, don't do that. Right? The instruction in the dream is, don't make this bigger than it is.
Don't let your panic take over.
Exactly. Don't let your panic take over. Right? Exactly. Let's make an announcement. Let's figure all this out. I will need to find her, right? She's lost. I need to find her. Don't let your panic take over. Let things play out.
So if this is a question that's being answered,
yes,
sort of,
good. That's good,
what
Dad.
what would it be? And I think it's exactly that. The question is, what do I do about my daughter? I don't know what to
Exactly.
do. The
Yeah.
question is, don't let your panic take over.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Don't try and solve the problem right now.
Yeah.
Yes. And
By calling it out, by making an announcement, by broadcasting what is not meant to be broadcast yet.
Yeah. We'll put it this way. And this is not what the dream says. This would be my advice based on the dream. Make the relationship with your daughter bigger than the problem of the present day circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great dream because it gives some insight into.
It really is. I mean, it's helpful. It's
How
one
do
of those dreams.
How do we navigate these things?
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those dreams you hope you have.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of this thing and I don't know what to do. Oh,
right.
I could do this. So that's good.
Yeah, that's right. We have a couple of people have submitted. So are any of those people on?
Let's see here. I saw one that was really short.
From Shar, yeah.
This is good, yeah. So I keep having dreams with my childhood best friend appearing in them. We were friends from 5th grade to early 20s. We both got into drugs. I got out and was saved. She continued in the life. She appears in my dreams in a lot of different ways, some good, some bad. I would appreciate some insight. So the big question here is, why would this person, of all the people on the planet, why this person's showing up in your dreams?
Yeah.
And on a
relatively consistent basis. Yeah.
Right. So what is it about this person that is significant? So you've given us a little bit of insight, which is helpful.
Yep.
You were friends from the 5th grade into your 20s. You both got into drugs at the same time. It sounds like you got out of it, came into a life of faith, but she continued in that, and I'm assuming, as far as you know, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
So the big question, I think, first of all, when you're looking at that, is who is she in the dream? Is she someone who is her same age as she is now? Is she someone who's in her 20s when you guys were struggling with getting into drugs?
Right.
Or is she someone who is a child in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade,
right,
when you guys were younger and having fun together?
Or different in everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the question is because it's a recurring character in the dreams. We're going to go ahead and say that Shar. I'm going to assume, because we don't know any more about the dreams in particular. If Shar wants to take one of the most recent ones and then post it, we can always look at that too, because that could be helpful. But the dream is not typically, dreams like this are not about your friend. The dream is about Shar, and the friend represents something in particular to Shar. And so again, like my dad's saying, what age is the person in the dream? What are they doing consistently when they show up? Sometimes the name of the person is an important thing to look at, because there's so much shared history there. You could kind of hazard a guess that it's the friend represents the inability to remain faithful to Jesus, maybe something along those lines, right? Given the metaphor of someone who was a friend but was taken out, so to speak, by
by choices in life,
by choices and carnality and this kind of stuff, right? So the inability to remain faithful and committed or connected as a friend, right, can represent that, or as a kind of, because sometimes we have these figures in our dreams that become archetypes for something bigger in our life, like friendship in general, right?
Yeah.
That she represents what happens when you see friends going down a way. She's in her earlier 20s. So in the time when things really started to, she's in her early 20s. So I'm assuming, Shar, that's the time when things really started to fall apart. And when you guys were, since you were friends from 5th grade to early 20s, that's when you guys were getting into drugs. You got out, she didn't. So the inability to escape a destructive patterns in life, right? So she could represent things like that in the dream. So then again, it depends on the dream itself. But when you have the same person consistently showing up, they usually represent the same kind of thing every time. And because essentially if you think about it, you're developing your own dream vocabulary. And we were talking earlier about the language barriers being eradicated between people groups at for those of you that didn't tune in, at Pentecost. And one of the language barriers that we see being consistently or constantly eradicated is the language barrier of understanding what God's speaking to us about. And so the same person showing up with the same person, Karen says recurring dream of the same person, an awareness being brought to your attention, awareness of circumstances or pattern. Yeah, the patterns in your, maybe it could be patterns in your own life, could be patterns in friendships, that kind of stuff. We just know it most likely does not represent the best friend in, like, oh, you need to pray for your best friend, or it's right. The dreams are probably about Shar. The friend represents something, again, like you're saying, maybe a pattern, becoming aware of something in your own life, or friends in general, when something's happening, giving you insight into what's happening in peer groups that you're involved with, that kind of thing. So God has, like, he has custom tailored your life and your experiences. He's let you muck up the whole thing, and then he's brought redemption in there. And so he picks and chooses the kind of symbols and what they represent, custom tailored for you. So this childhood best friend that has so much emotional connection, so much probably pain associated with the brokenness in the friendship and the stuff that happened at that point in your life. So she represents something to Shar. And so the questions you're going to ask: name of the person, history with the person, what kind of person are they, that kind of stuff. And so Karen, I think, yeah, absolutely, the recurring person could be that. So, like, I've got recurring people in my dreams that they're, because of the name of the person, they might represent the Lord, or because of the name of the person, they might represent, or, you know, for instance, one thing I had for a long time, I had an iPod that would show up in my dreams constantly, all the time, right? It's not a person, but the iPod represented something specific to me, because I used that iPod primarily every morning. I'd put some worship music on, go into my little corner of the house I was living in with all the people that were around, to get away with Jesus. So the iPod was very personal to me in terms of intimacy with the Father, intimacy with God. And so when the iPod showed up, I knew it was talking about my intimate relationship with God. Interesting one for that. So her name is very biblical. So you look at the biblical meaning of the name. What did the person do in Scripture? Could definitely represent something there. I like the website. I'll type it here in the comments: behindthename.com. If I got it right there, behindthename.com is a great website for looking at the meaning of a name, because that could definitely influence how you see those dreams. So great question, Shar. But you know, when we have our next dream training, that's one of the things we'll go over, is how to look at symbols like that. Of course, we like helping you guys on the live streams too, but the dream course can be very helpful as well. So we'll be announcing shortly when that's coming up. So
I would also just add to that, Shar, that sometimes we have dreams with particular people or circumstances in them that happen on a recurring basis, because there's some event or something triggers that sort of a connection. So if you are having some let's say, so because we're probably looking at friendship that has not that started to fall apart at that time, I would ask myself the question: do I have some friendships that are tracking down that same road? Does
Sure.
that seem to be coming in? Is there a pattern that I need to pay attention to? Is that why this keeps happening? And if
Right.
there's a pattern I see in some of my other friendships, then then often if you'll address that, that sort of a dream will begin to go away, because you finally come to the conclusion, oh, maybe I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
So, and it's just a
Yeah.
thought. It's not necessarily on this, but it is something, especially with recurring dreams, that they often speak to a pattern that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that pattern can look very different. It's the underlying element in it that our brains and our heart see as the same.
Yeah.
And so we have that same, why am I afraid in these circumstances every time?
Sure.
And the circumstances are all different, but I'm always afraid. That's the sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's good.
all right, let's
Is Mark Festervand there? Is it Mark, have you tuned in? Because I know that's one of the dreams that we have. You can, we'll just ask. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, while we're
Just seeing if Mark is around.
let's see. I did that one wrong. Yeah, while we're waiting for Mark, let's do this one real quick from Lean.
Oh yeah, yeah. Lean just posted that one. That's great.
Yeah, this is pretty quick. I saw a man with a bear on his shoulders, running first under trees, playing like it should be fun to the bear, a brown bear. Just the bear didn't find it funny. Then he started to run back and forth over the train tracks. So there were no first there were no trains, but I felt it was scary and insane. So I looked if trains were coming. The trains started coming, first freight trains from the right side, after that person, and then a train from the left. He kept running over the tracks, even though the trains were coming, with the bear on his shoulders. She was observing.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna Lean. Did you know the guy, or were there any physical characteristics of him that stand out to you? Like clothes he was wearing, color, ethnicity, anything like that? So obviously, he's got a bear on his shoulders. That stands out to you. But I'm wondering if there's any other distinguishing characteristics about him. Oh, he's a guy from your past. Okay. Okay. And so as a person from your past, what is it? Is this like an old friend, an old boyfriend, just a passing acquaintance, someone from a workmate? What's the connection from the past? And it's like an ex-boyfriend is what you're saying. My ex-man. Okay. So you saw your ex-husband, ex-boyfriend, my ex-man. X-Man, not X-Man as in the superheroes X-Men, but so yeah, ex-husband. Okay. Okay. Your ex-husband. Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. That's a pretty big detail. And then when did you have this dream? When did you have this dream? And are you still in touch with your ex-husband, and or with his family or something like that? You had it this week. Yeah. Okay, good. And not in touch with him or his family. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good. So yeah, it's really interesting dream. Yeah, go ahead, Dad. You start off. I'm just looking at that over again.
Well, okay, so we can start with, so she's observing, and it's something that has an effect on her, but not necessarily something she's doing. So it could have an influence, or has had an influence at some point. A bear is not, especially a bear on your shoulder, just not going to be a good thing.
No.
You think it's
Yes.
fun. A bear doesn't even think it's funny,
Yeah.
but you're running around with a bear. So why, bear represents Josh. Go for it.
Well, Karen put out a pretty good one right
Where's
there.
that?
Brown bear,
Aggressive nature. Yeah.
aggressive nature. Yeah.
So
Well, I
something
mean,
that he's carrying on his shoulder, paying no attention to the danger that comes, going one track across the other track, running, doesn't care. And so that's really good. That aggressive nature. He's carrying it like it's
yeah,
his own, and he thinks it's funny, but it's not, and
right.
it's destructive. And eventually,
Oh, there,
something can
Lean. He
happen.
was supposed to have our son on his shoulders to play with, but he had a bear. We're getting all kinds of extra information
There
here.
we go.
Yeah. So you were observing your husband. Was there anything else in the dream that you're leaving out, Lean?
So this is one of those examples of, I'm going to make this a short dream.
Yes. Yeah. What? Okay. No. Okay. So you saw your husband with a bear on his shoulders. He was supposed to be carrying your son, but instead it was a bear. And you saw him going back and forth. Another question is, does your husband, your ex-husband, have a good relationship with your son?
Oh
Is
yeah, that's a
one,
good question.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's instead of your son there, you go, why is he doing with a bear? He's supposed to have my son and he has a bear. So this is telling you, now that puts a whole different spin on this, right?
Yes.
I was looking at it going, I'm not quite sure what this means.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he doesn't really have a good relationship with your son. The dream is showing you why he doesn't have a good relationship with your son. That's essentially why doesn't he have a good relationship? Is it my son's fault? Is it my husband's fault? Because your husband's carrying things and playing with your ex-husband, right? So this is giving you specific insight. Because now again, context of the dream, right? Context of the dream is now, be aware of the behaviors that are being shown to you. That's right. That's very true. The context of the dream is now family. The context of the dream is not a person that we don't know watching some, because I'm going, is it old relationships? Is it
Right,
what?
exactly.
Right.
Right.
No, but because your son was supposed to be there, now we have the context of the dream, Lean, her husband, and her son. So we're talking a dream that's telling Lean, giving her insight about what's a dynamic that's happening in the family, right? So there's things that your husband entertains, your ex-husband, that's damaging to him, but really it's taken the place of what is responsibility with the son, right? Because he's supposed to have the son on his shoulders, but now he has the bear. So because he's entertained some of these things, it's really removed your son from the place of support and care. Like if he's on the shoulders, right? You're supporting him, undergirding him, adding strength to him, this kind of stuff, right? And in fact, what has damaged the relationship or distracted your ex-husband from the place of fathering has actually been quite destructive. It's quite self-destructive in that sense.
Yeah.
You're looking at this is scary and insane. He's going to get taken out by recklessness. Exactly, Karen. Recklessness without awareness of the circumstances and the impact it's having. Absolutely.
Yep.
So you're seeing self-destructive patterns play out, and you can see it in the dream is showing you it's impacting your ex-husband's ability to care and carry his own son. That's where the brokenness in the relationship comes from. I'm guessing that's what the dream's showing you anyway.
And so she's observing in this.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
says, I can see this happening. So
But you can't necessarily do anything about it.
No, but you have awareness, which is a good thing. So who is it that you would be able to help in this situation? Probably your son.
Yeah, probably not your ex-husband, but
probably not the guy
your son.
carrying the bear and running in front of trains. No, but probably your son to help him understand, because you have understanding and awareness. You can then pass that on.
Yeah. So there's those two things. Is your responsibility is not your ex-husband.
Right.
Your responsibility is to help your son navigate the hurt that's going to happen because of the broken relationship, all those things, right? So God gives you insight there. And Karen, right, exactly. The Lord may be confirming what you're thinking and seeing. And the other thing is, it's giving you insight into how to, Karen's like nailing this one out of
I
the
know.
park.
I like
Yeah.
actually not anything I didn't know, but thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, that's right.
It's
Yeah,
still helpful to my
yeah,
ego.
that's right. It is. But what it does is
Love that.
it gives you added depth to your prayer for your
Right.
son and the
Exactly.
relationship there.
Right.
Right. And because you want, I mean, ultimately, regardless of what's happened with you and your ex-husband, that you want every family, you want restoration between fathers and sons.
Right.
It's so important. Even if the marriage is broken, having a relationship, the children to the parents, like, oh, I can see now what's happening in here that's distracting that or taking away from that. So so it gives you some insight in terms of prayer and um yeah, intercession.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, next stream. I don't think Mark has commented here,
I
so
have not seen that.
let's bring up another one.
Let me bring up. Well, let's do this one. Casey. Casey, are you still on?
Here, while you're doing that, let's do this. Here. I love this dream by Jim. It's actually quite hilarious, the dream.
Yeah.
I had a dream.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you read
I had
it.
a dream a couple of weeks ago that I was in spiritual warfare. I woke up when it felt like someone grabbed my leg and pulled on it.
So was I the first question, Jim, as my dad's bringing up Casey's dream, and we're seeing if Casey's still here, and if Jim is still here too, is was there anything else to the dream, or is that it? You just knew you were in spiritual warfare, or was there more detail about the spiritual warfare? And yeah, Susan, I hate it when that happens. Yes. So was there more to the dream than just I was in spiritual warfare? Was it, was there a battle happening? Did you see it happening? Was it long and epic, or was it just I felt like I was fighting all night, but I don't remember what it was. It could be all kinds of different things. So the super interesting part is you woke up when it felt like someone grabbed your leg and pulled on it. Because there's definitely a wordplay there.
Yeah.
Yes. No more detail. You just knew you were in a fight. You felt oppression. Yeah. 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 Here's here's the deal. The enemy's trying to pull your leg. Is the expression pulling the
He's
leg?
just pulling my leg.
He's just pulling my leg. Yeah. He's trying to convince you that he's got a lot more fight in him than he actually does. Yeah. And so he's pulling your leg. That's what it is. And the dream's showing you God is actually in charge. God is actually in control. Any kind of spiritual warfare is just someone trying to pull your leg. Not denying the fact that we're not in a battle and we're not in a fight. I'm not saying that. But ultimately, our rest is in Christ. This is going back to, and I know, Jim, you've jumped on a couple of the Coffee with Ken calls. This is going back to living in resurrection, understanding the resurrection, and living in the resurrection. And, but yeah, the enemy is trying to pull your leg. He's trying to put it, this is the one thing. If the enemy can convince us that he's more powerful than he is, then we give him more place than he deserves.
Or if he tries to remind you of old patterns that have
there you go. That's right. That's really good.
And you've actually had victory, but now you feel like you're fighting in it again.
Yeah.
That's pulling your leg because you've actually got no, that's not true. I'm done with that.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That is what the enemy. Yeah, that's right. That's what the enemy tries to do, is pull your leg. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Karen is just nailing everything. The enemy's just trying to distract you.
Right.
That's what he's trying to do. Which would say to me, reading into it a little bit, is that the Father's got something great for you, but the enemy doesn't want you to get. So I'm gonna try and hoodwink you, from the perspective of the enemy. I'm gonna try and hoodwink Jim so he doesn't get it. So but the Father's got something incredible in store for you. So I would press in even more. Yeah. Karen does rock in that. That's right.
Cool.
That's right. That's right. You're on track. Keep going. That's right. Yeah.
I didn't see if Casey said she was still online or not.
No, I haven't seen her. So we've got time for maybe one or two more. So
we got time for about one more, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, let me do this one. Casey, sorry if you are on. Oh man. I don't have all of this one. I thought I had grabbed it, but somehow I don't think I did. We'll see. Give me 1 second here. Oh, no, I do have it. Okay. No, I've got it. I got the whole thing.
So Lynn, Karen's comments don't show up on. So the show is being live streamed to the Joshua Hoffert page, the Wind Ministries page, and the Joshua Hoffert YouTube channel. So,
it's messing me up too, by the way.
Yeah, it does mess him up. It makes perfect sense to me.
You guys post these things and they pop into 3 different places, and I'm trying to find them to pull them in.
So it depends on where you're tuning in from. You'd only be able to see the comments from where you're tuning in from, Lynn, but we can see all the comments because we've got the power.
We have the power. It's true.
Susan says she needs help with this one. By the way, guys, for those of you that are in the Dream Facebook group that have been through the training and we've added to the group, that's, by the way, how you get into our private dream interpretation group, where we talk about dreams and share and interpret. Is you go through the training and we'll add you. My dad and I are trying to figure out a time where we can do a private live stream just with you guys on Facebook, on the Facebook group, and go through a bunch of the dreams that have been posted in there. So anyway, that's something coming down the pipe.
All right.
Mainly just getting my dad to commit to a time. So
that is true, but in my defense, I've been
no,
projecting like crazy the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. Every time I've asked you, you've been working on something else.
Building a wall or building a sidewalk or something. Who knows? All right. So Susan says she dreamt that she was going to a friend's place to friends' places to worship. We would lay on the ground under the stars and worship, and God would come, and his presence was so thick and beautiful. Suddenly, I discovered that a friend had cancer and was aggressive and all over her back. I was not allowed to touch her in case she was somehow catchy. I was crying and went to another friend, and it repeated 2 more times. Then I found my husband, and we were in our old house, and I was going to bed to sleep in my old room. Suddenly, I woke and looked out the window, and God had colored all the figures in the sky, all the horoscope signs, and all the other things. I went out of my room and passed by an elevated bed when our ex-son-in-law was laying down, and he somehow believed in God. He was being restored as I passed by. I got to Dave's room and showed him the signs in the sky, and he broke into tears and told me God had told him not to lock the door, and he wept because he knew Andrew came to Christ through the door and was now safe and saved.
Wow. What a dream.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay.
There's really one theme and two different parts. Yeah. Well, almost 3 different parts when she has her conversation with Dave.
Yeah.
So and who's Dave? Your husband?
I'm guessing that Dave is your husband.
That's what it sounds like in reading the dream. Or is he, as a son or husband to family member? Old house was a thin place, so much supernatural activity. Yeah. Yeah, Dave is her husband. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's really the same thing happening twice in a way, right? Because
Yeah.
in the first place, you've got this one, you have the incredible presence of God, right? In the first place. And the second part, you have the incredible presence of God,
Right.
right? And in the first time, the
So that
incredible
sandwich is your dream, by the way. So you got to
that
close
does
that.
sandwich the dream. There's two, and in the first part of the dream, incredible presence of God, and you have these. Is it two friends that have cancer, or just
Three.
one? Three friends that have cancer, and you can't do anything about it.
Two more
And it's
times.
like,
So it was, three altogether. Yeah.
yeah, you can't even touch the person, so you can't even reach out to them and do anything. There's nothing you can do about it, right? And that's devastating, right? So you go incredible presence of God, and I've seen these wonderful, amazing things, but at the same time, I've had to deal with this great calamity and loss, right? And
Yeah.
the other scene and the other part, incredible presence of God. God fills in all the edges. He makes everything make sense, right? And you see your someone who seems maybe beyond hope is finds hope and is saved, right? So I don't know that this is a dream prophesying the salvation of your ex-son-in-law. I'm not saying that.
But we
But I'm
won't say it's
saying,
not. So
yeah, well, we're not saying it's not. Yeah,
yeah.
it definitely could
Right.
be. But someone who's beyond hope that finds life in Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So you've got someone who's beyond hope and brings great grief. You've got someone who's beyond hope but is brought in. And so it's like God is with you. You've seen the highs of high in the presence of God, and you've seen it's like you've seen the deep, difficult questions of why aren't they healed? Why doesn't it happen? Why are they taken from me? This is terrible and this is horrible. So the Father's showing you that through the thick and the thin of why does life happen the way that it happens, that He's with you and He's filling in the rough outlines, right? The sky goes, He fills in all the places and everything. So through the difficulties and through the highs, you've discovered so much about Him. And you've known that He's there throughout the whole thing, right? And there's part of the mystery of human life, right? Is again going back to the coffee with Ken, is as we talk about resurrection life, is Jesus is the resurrection. We know the implications of what's happened, but we still see our friends die because they have cancer. But then we see the hopeless person who we never think could meet Christ is actually radically transformed and redeemed. And we can't predict any one of them. We just know that He's good and He leads us and He guides us. And we see more and more of His beauty and His glory and His majesty. And I can't help but be fascinated with Him. And that's where the end of the day is in the dream, is you end with your husband weeping and weeping because Andrew came to Christ. And all your the only thing, I love this, the only thing you did was kept your door open, right? I had a friend one time tell me when I was really struggling with some broken relationships and loss of friendships. And he said, it just sounds to me like you're saying, I'm not going to burn my side of the bridge. And it seems to me that that's kind of the way that you guys live your life, is we're not going to leave the door closed on anybody, but we're going to keep the relationship open. So this is, if the door's open, right? I'm not going to get into that judgmental Christian thing, right? I'm not going to say, oh, that they can never have this, right? We're going to keep our door open, and we're going to keep the door of our hearts open to anything.
So, and what is the door? The door is love.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Right. Yeah. So that doesn't, and it's the door doesn't mean we go out of the door to try and bring people in, but we're not going to be the ones that close the door, because we're going to continue to maintain an openness to whatever God, because we know that God could redeem a broken situation. We know we've seen Him not redeem it, and we've seen Him redeem it, but we know He can, and we know He's going to be with us. And so that's the door is, I'm not going to close my heart off to this person, but I'm going to keep my heart open to them.
And it's kind of this: stay in the presence and don't give up on lost causes.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the 18-inch key, that would be a whole different thing, Susan. An 18-inch key. The 18-inch key, it's hard to say, but I would say first I would look at it as um the key. Susan says, Josh, could this be connected to the 18-inch key I received in a dream
Right.
from a winged white horse? The key to their hearts. I don't know. I would say the key might be the key to your heart first,
Yeah.
and then go from there. So, because I don't know. I obviously not knowing what happens in the other dream, but I would look at in a dream, who else is in the dream? Does the dream give me insight about that other person? Right. This dream's giving you insight about you and your husband, keeping your hearts open to even the people that it'd be very easy to dislike.
Quit. Yeah.
To just quit. Yeah. So
You hurt us enough. We're done.
Yeah. It's one thing for me to be hurt, but do it to my daughter. Like, my goodness, like, you're going to have to pay, that's very easy to enter into. And you guys have said, no, God can restore. He's a God of restoration. Even though we've seen difficulties in the presence of God, we've also anticipate that there'll be great breakthrough in the presence of God. Yeah.
Yep. Well, Josh.
Well, I think Annette says, what did the horoscope signs mean? It's just what she says is she looked and God had colored all the figures in the sky, all the stars and all the symbols and all that stuff. He made it so that would be the signs in the heavens. Yeah. He made things make sense. We could actually say, before they're the outline, he's colored in everything. So that when you color something in, it's like, oh my goodness, I can actually see it for what it is now. And so it's brought additional clarity and understanding and insight into what God is doing, who God is, all that kind of stuff. So so it's not so much about the horoscope signs as it is that God's colored in the things that were less distinct and hard to figure out, and I can see them more clearly and I understand them a little bit more now. Yeah. It's not that the things that seemed esoteric and distant aren't as esoteric and distant. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
You
guys always have great dreams.
Yeah, that's right. Great dreams, great questions, good time together. We always appreciate it for sure.
And we're sorry we can't get to all your dreams, but we got to a few of them anyway.
We got to as many as we could. Yeah. And we will again shortly, we'll be announcing hopefully within the next week or two, the next dream training course, and alumni are always invited to participate in those. And that if you're interested in growing in the area of dream interpretation, we'll have that. And that's one of the benefits is you get to join our little dream club on Facebook that is very, very active, actually.
Yeah.
Lots of fun. So we appreciate all of you guys. Yeah. So, well, Lean, I'm not quite sure yet. We're just putting some dates together. So soon. Yeah.
All right. Well, blessings to you all, and may your dreams increase. May they may you have greater clarity and understanding.
That's right.
And may you know His presence in increasing measure.
That's right.
And be blessed and have peace.
That's right. Yeah. May the Lord be with you. Amen.
We will see you next time.
That's right.